Okay, so once again, good morning to all of you. And let us begin this class. Today the focus is, as you can see in my background, the first session was the whole issue of Fides et Ratio. And the second one, we already saw briefly the introduction to the apostolic exhortation Veritatis Gaudium. Now, Pope Francis is very, very keen that this Veritatis Gaudium should be interested in discovering the joy of truth, the joy of truth. You know what is happening? You know, all these popular movements, folklore stories, or whether it be from Onam in Kerala or Karam in the tribal places, all these are ways a culture seeks for truth, for beauty, and for collaboration. It is these events, festivities, that bring people together. There is joy, there is collaboration, and at the same time, we are unconsciously searching for the truth. Okay, now I would like to share. This time I am not sharing PPT. I hope you would be able to read with me highlights of Veritatis Gaudium. Now, in these highlights, what is being shared, it is actually an extract, a news account from Vatican News. So I will be reading this with you, and I hope you will be able to follow it. Okay. Veritatis Gaudium is an apostolic constitution on ecclesiastical universities and faculties, that is on places like ours, ecclesiastical faculties. Now, what is very, very important is for us to realize that these ecclesiastical faculties and universities, where actually JDV is also part of, earlier it was guided by another apostolic constitution called Sapientia Christiana. Sapientia Christiana. Sapientia means wisdom, Christian wisdom. This was issued in the year 1979. Now in 2017, actually it was issued on December 8, but it was promulgated only in 2018 January. So what we are talking about, these two documents, one, Veritatis Gaudium, is the constitution of every ecclesiastical universities. Just like Sapientia Christiana was the constitution earlier. Okay. Some highlights of this Veritatis Gaudium. The beginning verse that is very, very interesting for us. The joy of truth expresses the restlessness of the human heart. Remember Augustine's quote, "Our hearts are restless, O Lord, till it finds its rest in you." So our restlessness of the human heart, that is satisfied only till it encounters and dwells in God's light. And once we encounter the light of God, the joy of truth, then we will share it with all people. We are not interested in converting others. We are interested in sharing the joy with all people. So, this truth is not an abstraction. This truth is not an abstraction, but it is actually a person. It is Jesus Christ who became one like us. So that is the key message. Truth is not an abstract idea, but Jesus himself, the word of God, in whom is the life that is the light of men. And it is a joy that the church is impelled by Jesus to bear witness to and to proclaim in her mission. So the joy, the church is impelled, the church is forced by Jesus to bear witness to this joy and to proclaim it in her mission unceasingly, without end, and with ever renewed vigor. So this much for the introduction. Unceasingly, with renewed vigor, the church is called upon to bear witness to the joy of the gospel, to the joy of truth. Okay, in this context, the earlier apostolic constitution 1979 and the present one, there is a difference of about 40 years. In this context, some highlights, that is what we are going to see. Just keep in mind these highlights. One, a call for renewal, a courageous renewal of ecclesiastical studies. That is because our socio-cultural context is different. Because our socio-cultural context is changed, we need new guidelines, new impetus. There is today a wide-ranging anthropological and environmental crisis. All of us are aware of the environmental crisis. The document of Pope Francis, Laudato Si, is addressing this environmental crisis. But there is also an anthropological crisis. You remember we took up some of it in our last course, Philosophical Anthropology. Basic issues and understandings of the human person are threatened today. For example, Pope Benedict used to say, we are entering into a culture of death. That is a very strong word, the culture of death. Although Pope Francis does not like to use that word, culture of death, the understanding of human being, human dignity, that is being radically changed. Three things that expresses this anthropological crisis. Number one, abortion. People don't seem to have any hesitation in putting an end to unwanted babies. Easy access to.
Happy Onam.
Hello. So, easy access to abortion. And the second one is, euthanasia. There are very many people, particularly in Europe, they just give up on themselves. Maybe it is a little painful towards the evening of their life. They seek to put an end to their own life, euthanasia. And the third one, the crisis of morality. Or in the philosophical anthropology, we saw the shortage of justice. See, the value and the worth of people are just being questioned. In America, there is this Black Lives Matters movement. Now, the black people there are almost treated like the Dalits in India. At least in America, they make noise. In India, the Dalits can't even make noise. So the whole degradation of the value of human person, the dignity of human beings are robbed. and that is the anthropological crisis. One, that of abortion. Two, euthanasia. These two are at the personal level, but at the collective level, our dignity is robbed. That is why some people, because of their greed, they keep on gathering wealth while thousands of people go hungry. So, what we need is a wise and courageous renewal because of the changing socio-cultural context. We need a wise and courageous renewal of philosophy and theology so that our mission becomes more effective at this moment in history. And more about our mission is given in this another apostolic exhortation of Pope Francis, Evangelii Gaudium. That means the joy of the gospel. If you note, Pope Francis has been repeatedly stressing the word Gaudium. Gaudium means the joy. Here it is the joy of truth in this document. Here it is the joy of living the evangelical life, living the gospel. Okay, so we need a courageous renewal, a wise renewal. Okay, now all of you know philosophy is a search for wisdom. What is wisdom? What is wisdom? I want you, when you get time, just to have a look at this website that I am creating. It is not complete, but I am just creating this website. Let me see if I can get that website. Okay, just please, Jnanam, you know, Jnanam is jnanam.in. Just enter into this website, jnanam.in. Okay, about us and goal, you just go to wisdom. Under wisdom, there are some quotations as to what wisdom is.
Father, we cannot see the screen.
You cannot see the screen, okay? Hello, now is it okay? Can you see it?
Yes, Father.
Just go to jnanam.in. Jnanam.in. Look at what is wisdom. Now, in wisdom, you see, I found this chart very useful. See, data, there are experiences, events, which changes into information, useful information, because you are categorizing them. Some bluish, some greenish, and that is data. Then you put some order into it, that becomes knowledge. Data, information, knowledge. And then from knowledge, you get new insights. And you get wisdom when you have a holistic view, when everything is connected and then you see through. This is taken from the net, therefore they have added also conspiracy theories. Unfortunately, in our world, nothing is perfect. We need to suspect everything. Conspiracy theory would say that most of what we get are not really true. What we get in the newspapers, what we get from the world outside, they are not true. There is another element There are other forces who will create news for you, the so-called fake news. Unfortunately, very sadly, there are many fake news connected also with our COVID. And that's very, very bad because the good work done by doctors, medical professionals, they are being destroyed because of many of the fake news and conspiracy theory. So, coming to your own life, you have plenty of data, every experience, every meeting. Now, you need to categorize them into information, then make useful knowledge out of it, create new insights, and then get into a wisdom way of life. And that's very, very important for you. You're spending 2 or 3 years in our place in JDV. Be men of wisdom. And what wisdom would be interested in, that is what you would see here. But I am more interested that you read this article of mine. I had written it in a magazine called The Smart Companion, The Wisdom of the Soul. The Wisdom of the Soul. This is a 2-page article. Just have a look at this article, The Wisdom of the Soul. If you want, I can also send the article by email. Here I have made a JPEG file out of it. You should be able to read it. See, for example, one French gentleman, Rochefoucauld, says, wisdom is to the soul what health is to the body. So wisdom is preserving the soul, just like health preserves and fosters the body. And today, people are dying also for wisdom. Many of the calamities and conflicts in the world can be addressed if we can actually live a life of wisdom. And on the right side, you will find actually many quotations on wisdom. Just have a look at it. So that is about wisdom. And I want you really to pay attention to that because our whole life is a search for truth, a search for wisdom. So we also saw the sapiential dimension. That is how John Paul II used the term in Fides et Ratio, the sapiential dimension. So the first highlight of the new document is a courageous renewal of the ecclesiastical studies where we seek wisdom for our times. The second one, the Catholic universities for a missionary church. The church is missionary by nature. The church is not interested in preserving itself. Church is primarily meant to go out. Now, by going out, let's not understand it as converting people. Now, we are not interested in converting people, but we are interested in proclaiming the message of love, the joy of the gospel, sharing it with others. That is what we are interested in. And if the church is so, the Catholic universities, even our JDV, is meant for that. Starting from the primary need today for a missionary transformation of a church that goes forth, that gets involved, we will see at the end, that goes forth especially to the peripheries, the poor. We need to offer opportunities and processes for the suitable formation of priests, consecrated men and women, and committed lay people. So we need a suitable formation given to all people around. And this suitable formation in wisdom, in value, that is what the church is doing. And that is primarily for the purpose of the mission dimension of the church. So, you know, what is sensus fidei fidelium? This means the sense of faith of the ordinary people. The Holy Spirit enriches the people of God in manifold ways, from the ordinary people to the magisterium, to the leaders. So all of us together are called to be missionaries, from the charism of the prophets to that of the doctors and theologians. Whether you are a prophet, whether you are a medical doctor, whether you are a theologian, we are all called to share in the gospel of love. This difference is very, very important. When we speak about the church being a missionary, let's not imagine first and foremost of converting people. Let us imagine that we are sharing in the message of God's love. The third, a cultural revolution in the light of tradition. We need a revolution of our very culture, but we should also be inspired by the tradition, the past. The Pope says this kind of a missionary approach requires a radical paradigm shift, or rather, a bold cultural revolution. A radical paradigm shift or a bold cultural revolution. Who speaks about paradigm? Paradigm. Hello, paradigm. Have you done your philosophy of science? Philosophy of science with Stephen Jayad. Have you done it? Who speaks about paradigm? Paradigm. Thomas Kuhn. You have forgotten that also. The name also. Thomas Kuhn was a famous philosopher of science who spoke about a paradigm, a model, a particular worldview. So we need to shift our paradigm radically. We need to initiate a bold cultural revolution in which, this is important, in which the worldwide network of ecclesiastical universities and faculties is called to make a contribution of Leven in this paradigm shift. So, the task entrusted to places like us is to enable a paradigm shift, a bold cultural revolution. In the Indian context, it is all the more difficult and challenging. If you are in Europe and America, the Catholic universities can easily be part of the mainstream. In India, you know, because of our situation, it is difficult, but we are still called to be this paradigm shift enabler or agents of bold cultural revolution. So the first point is courageous and wise renewal of the ecclesiastical universities. Then Catholic universities for a missionary approach, spreading the joy of the gospel, giving light to the other people, sharing that light. And the third one is radical paradigm shift, bold cultural revolution. See, I want you at least, things like paradigm that is very, very crucial for philosophy and for the larger world. And, paradigm is very specifically a philosophy of science concept. So such concepts that you get from other courses, that should somehow be part of your day-to-day life. Okay, there is also the true evangelical hermeneutic. You know that who taught you hermeneutic? Epistemology and hermeneutics, no?
We haven't
Not.
done it.
You are not done that. See, hermeneutics is interpretation. So this term is also very, very crucial for us. There is a need for a true evangelical hermeneutics for better understanding of life, the world, and humanity. So you need a new interpretation, and that is made possible by philosophy, by theology. Therefore, based on the truths of reason and faith, based on the truths of reason and faith, you saw the reason and faith already. Now you see, philosophy and theology permit one to acquire convictions that structure and strengthen the intelligence and illuminate the will. They allow us to acquire, philosophy and theology allow us to acquire convictions which structures and strengthens the intelligence and illuminate the will. Remember, here you have the intellect and the will. And this is fruitful only if it is done with an open mind and on our knees. So on the one hand, we have to keep our mind open, think. But on the other hand, this thinking, this philosophizing must be done on our knees when we are praying. So our call as Catholic philosophers and theologians is to illuminate our intelligence, widen our thinking, but always remaining humble, open on the knees. Prayerfully, let us do it. The theologian who is satisfied with his complete and conclusive thought is mediocre. Once again, a theologian who is satisfied with his complete and conclusive thought. If you think that you have the complete and the conclusive definitive thought, then you are only an average theologian. A good theologian and a philosopher has an open, incomplete thought, and he is always open to the mayus. Mayus means the magis, the more of God and of the truth, always in development. And I want you to learn this and to keep this always in mind. If you find a theologian who thinks that he has got everything, the complete and the total and the conclusive knowledge, that is not a good thing. That is a very average theologian. A good prophetic theologian has an open mind. He is aware of his incomplete thought, and he is always open to the mayus of God, the magis, the greatness of truth, which is always evolving, developing. Please keep this in mind. See, many of the very conservative thinkers and theologians, they think that they know the whole truth. There is nothing more that they can learn. But the progressive ones, the genuine ones, like Karl Rahner, theirs was a theology that was always evolving, that was incomplete, that was open. Open to new thoughts, open to God, and also open to other ways of understanding the truth. So, this is a cultural revolution in the light of tradition. This one, discovering God in every person, discovering God in every human being. This is a challenge. You know, the Jesuits, during their 1 month spiritual exercises, one of the basic insights is we have to find God in everything. We have to find God in everything, everything, including in the coronavirus, including in Trump, in Modi, even in persons we don't like, we have to find God. Discerning God and God's will in everything that happens to us, including the tragic ones, that is what we are called to do. I'm completing the manuscript for a new book, and that is titled Finding God in Everything and Finding Everything in God. So you have to find God in everything. That is part one. And you have to find God in everything, and you have to find everything in God. So there is, in every aspect of this thing, in everything, there is God, and vice versa also. In God also, you have to find all the things. The love that you have for your parents, your friends, that is found in God. So find God in everything and find everything in God. That is a typical Ignatian insight. So in this context, Pope points out 4 fundamental criteria for the renewal and revival of the ecclesiastical studies for a missionary church. First, the most urgent and enduring criterion is the contemplation and presentation of a spiritual, intellectual, and existential introduction to the heart of the kerygma. Kerygma means proclamation, Jesus being proclaimed, namely the ever fresh and attractive good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is ever new, ever fresh in the life of the church and of the humanity. Please spend some time reading and understanding this very particular sentence. It's very, very interesting, very, very useful. The most urgent and enduring criterion is the contemplation and presentation of a spiritual, intellectual, and existential introduction to the heart of proclaiming Jesus. That is, the ever fresh and attractive good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ, which continues to take flesh. Jesus continues to take flesh, continues to be born in the life of the church and of the humanity. Even when we are suffering from this pandemic, Jesus is continuously being born, being taking flesh. From this arises the universal fraternity, the fraternity of all of us, which is capable of seeing the sacred grandeur of our neighbor, finding God in every human being, of tolerating the nuisances of life in common by clinging to the love of God, opening the hearts to divine love, and seeking the happiness of others just as the Father does. Seeking the happiness of others. This is something that we need to pay very, very special attention to. It is perfectly fine to seek my happiness, perfectly fine, but not at the cost of others' happiness. The true spiritual person is one who would prefer the other person to be happy, even at the cost of my own. So, if we are open to see the sacred grandeur of our neighbor, to find God in everything and everyone, to be opening the heart to divine love, to be seeking the happiness of others, just as the Father, our Heavenly Father, did. This leads to the imperative to allow our hearts and minds to heed the cry of the earth's poor and give concrete expression to the social dimension of evangelization. So, if we are genuine Christians, then we need to listen to the cry of the poor. Because for God in Christ redeems not only the individual person, but also the social relations existing between them. So God has not come only to renew individuals like me and you. God has come also to redeem the social structures. And the difficulty is our social structures are so oppressive, like the caste system, the capitalism, the way we deal with money, that is so narrow, so disabling, so oppressive. Here you can actually refer to the book of Father Cyril de Brulé, The Philosophy of Liberation. I have hinted at that book, The Philosophy of Liberation. Therefore, discovering God in every person, seeking the happiness of the other, finding God in the other, give preference to the poor, change and redeem not only individual persons but also social relationships. Okay, let me just come back. I will stop sharing. Any comments? Any questions? Please unmute yourself and ask. Or let me see if there are any chat. This one. Any questions? Did you understand the whole thing? See, we are only highlighting some of the main concerns of this document, Veritatis Gaudium. Is it okay? Hello?
Yes, Father. Yes, it's okay.
Very much. Any questions? Anything to clarify?
Okay.
Okay, then we continue with the same sharing. The fourth one, that is a dialogue with believers and non-believers. Dialogue with believers and non-believers. You know, the Indian church was very much in the forefront with regards to interreligious dialogue. That was one of our strengths, our forte. But nowadays, it is taking a back seat because of our particular situation where the fundamentalistic forces are becoming stronger. The dialogue with the other religions is taking a back state. But we still need it. We really need it for our very survival. Okay, in the Indian context, the dialogue must be primarily with the Hindus. But in the world context, the dialogue must be with Muslims. See, we have about altogether 1.7 billion Christians. And if you take the Muslims, it is about 1.2 billion. Approximate figure. 1.2 billion Muslims and 1.7 billion Christians. The number of Catholics and the number of Muslims are more or less the same. And Islam is on the rise in Africa. The simple logic, if both of us cannot collaborate, cannot live in harmony, the future of our planet Earth is at stake. Therefore, first and foremost, for our survival, dialogue with Muslims is a must. It is a must. I hear that Pope Francis is coming up with another document on a dialogue between religions, especially the Islam. Now, In the Indian context, of course, we need to dialogue between Hindus. Also, we need not a dialogue but exchange of views with different religions. That is a must. Sharing with Hindus, Muslims, tribal religions, Buddhists, Jains. That is a must not only for our survival, but also if we believe that God has created all these religions, then there are different aspects of truth that we can discover in other religious traditions. We just saw, if a theologian thinks that he has got the complete and the conclusive answers, he is only a mediocre theologian. As human beings, actually, in our villages, we are practicing this dialogue on a day-to-day basis. This dialogue may not be a theological one. This dialogue might be taking the shape of simple interaction. In a way, tolerance of other religions has been part of the Indian psyche. At the moment, okay, it is being disturbed a little bit. Therefore, dialogue with believers and non-believers is crucial. Second aspect, dialogue with science. You know, today, science and technology has progressed so far. Tesla, Musk alone, and Facebook, all these social revolutions, technological revolution, they are making the world a different place. The very simple fact that we can actually have online class, that is unimaginable about 10 or 15 years ago. The whole internet revolution came only about 25 to 30 years ago. So science and technology is progressing by leaps and bounds. They are developing exponentially, so radically. And if religion does not keep pace, that will destroy our human community. See, science and religion are like the 2 feet that we human beings have. If one of them grows and the other remains stunted, then we cannot walk. So, one, for the survival of human race, we need to collaborate with science and religion. You know, the earlier assumption, we will be talking about it later, that science and religion are opposed. That is not true. So, we will be talking about this need for science and religion much more elaborately in the next section of this class. Okay, dialogue with believers, with non-believers. That would mean dialogue with atheists, dialogue with those who do not believe in God. That is also very, very crucial. Unity of knowledge in the face of an uncertain and fragmented pluralism. Unity of knowledge, integrated approach, an integrated approach, not a dualistic, not a fragmented approach, not a relativistic approach. Pope Benedict also has been stressing this. This is what Pope Benedict writes. Today, there is a lack of wisdom and reflection, a lack of thinking capable of formulating a guiding synthesis. That is what, unfortunately, we are not capable of. Formulating a guiding synthesis for my life. Because I don't think properly, because I don't draw the wisdom out of the painful and pleasurable experiences of my life, because I don't examine my life, because I don't know myself, we don't have a guiding synthesis. Dear friends, as students of philosophy, this is precisely what we would wish for each one of you. Your guiding principles, your synthesis, your integrated vision is different from your friend because you have different experiences. But what you need to do is just to some extent reflect on your life, articulate a synthesis, a vision that covers up the whole of you, a guiding synthesis. And I really, really hope that you will be able to come, if not in November, at least in January. And when you come in January, you know, the most important thing for you is to prepare for the comprehensive exams. The written and the oral comprehensive exams, both of them have this as the goal, to formulate a guiding synthesis. This task is very, very urgent because in today's world, we are compartmentalizing ourselves, our knowledge. Postmodernism implies that everything is relative, that what is true for you is true only for you, not for your neighbor. Therefore, in the Indian culture, caste system may be true, and we cannot really question that caste system. Now, this postmodernism has become very, very popular. It has got some very good points, but by and large, postmodernism is nihilistic. It doesn't hold on to any universal or objective values. It focuses on all for my own sake. So, this has led to a fragmented understanding of truth and knowledge. Uncertainty is cherished, but we cannot, if we cherish only uncertainty, we really cannot lead our lives meaningfully. We need some guiding principles, some guiding synthesis. It is not to say that we will have absolute knowledge. That is not true. We will be formulating a grand unified theory of everything. That's not true. But what we need are some guiding principles. We will be open to change, as we saw earlier, but some guiding principles which unifies the differences found in every culture, the differences found between human beings. So, now let's come to what Pope Francis says. What is proposed by Pope Francis is an interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary approaches carried out with wisdom and creativity in the light of revelation. Can we take good thoughts from everywhere? Let good thoughts come from all sides, all directions. That is the motto of IISR, Indian Institute of Science and Religion. So, taking the good thoughts from all sides, approaching knowledge from an interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary approaches, carried out with wisdom and creativity. That is crucial, wisdom and creativity. That is actually the task entrusted to us. So we seek unity of knowledge, not uniformity. We seek a all-round synthesis of knowledge, but they may have very different characteristics. So, according to the vital intellectual principle of unity in the differences of knowledge, unity in diversity, and as opposed to fragmented and disinterested panorama of fragmented and disintegrated panorama of contemporary university studies, and to the pluralism. Pluralism is healthy, but if it is uncertain, conflicting, and relativistic, then it will have problems. Therefore, can we seek a guiding synthesis where uncertainty we must accept to some extent, but we shouldn't absolutize uncertainty. We should not absolutize conflict and relativism. Relativism, especially in moral principles. So, this Pope Francis says is where the specific mission entrusted to the program of ecclesiastical studies come into play, so that they may have a real and humanizing importance. The ecclesiastical studies must have a real contribution to make, real cultural and humanizing importance, providing this kind of a uncertain, conflicting and relativistic that we should overcome and formulate a integrated, not total, but integrated and evolving synthesis. Unity of knowledge in the face of an uncertain and fragmented pluralism. We have only two more aspects. Networking. Because we saw already that Vatican has got more than 1,400 universities and colleges under its span. And the call to network with other centers concerns the regular urgent need for networking between those institutions worldwide that cultivate and promote ecclesiastical studies. So, collaboration, cooperation with similar institutes will enhance our thinking. Then, reviving research. Now, as BPH students, you are not called into serious research, but at least you will get a taste of that research in your BPH seminar. Even the last essay I would be asking you to write is also to give you a taste for research. Without research, the church cannot go forth. Research means study, exploration, so that we can find new ways of living our Christian life. A simple example, when you give a homily, a good homily and a bad homily. A good homily, like a mediocre theologian, would have everything complete and conclusive. But a good homily will be taking into consideration the real problems of the people, like the pandemic situation. So, like a good homily, you should be able to revive the research, study hard, spend some time alone, read books, reflect, and write. Writing, preaching, that is central to our church and our Christian community. I will just read it slowly. Pope Francis says, the revival of ecclesiastical studies implies the pressing need to give new impulse to scientific research. New impulse to scientific research. And then, ecclesiastical studies cannot be limited to passing on knowledge. Passing on knowledge is lecturing. Professional competence. That is, okay, once you are a parish priest or once you are a teacher, then you are professionally competent. Now, since we all desire to grow as Christians, this is a crucial thing. Since we all desire to grow as Christians, we must take up the urgent task of developing intellectual tools, mental acumen, intellectual tools that can serve as paradigms for action and thought, useful for preaching in a world marked by ethical and religious pluralism. Here the word pluralism is used in a slightly negative way. In a world of moral and religious pluralism, cultural relativity, we need to develop serious research which would be useful for preaching and spreading and sharing the message of Christ. Therefore, friends, yours is a world of Twitter, the world of Facebook and WhatsApp. For that, you don't need much research. Research implies not just a brief comments or the tweets. Research implies getting material from all sides, sitting there, assimilating them, personalizing them, and then writing it down. It's difficult. It's very demanding. Demanding on time and also demanding on the inner silence. Unless we can really get in touch with yourself, unless you are silent within, you will not be able to do serious research. And this, dear friends, I want all of you to try. You may not become very famous theologians like Karl Rahner or Karl Barth, but at least in your own personal life, have some foundation, have some guiding synthesis, guiding principles, and some way of expressing them. The last one, theology and Christian life lives at the frontiers. You know, Pope Francis is very much interested in reaching out to the frontiers. Pope Francis has told the Jesuits in the last general congregation, go out and be where no one else will dare to. Whether it be with the poor, with the migrants, whether it would be with the people, with those for whom no one cares. That is the challenge for us Christians, to live in the frontiers. Don't get settled. Don't be the principal of a well-established college and remain there, but break open, reach out to the poor. We face a great cultural, spiritual, and educational challenge, and it will demand that we set out in the long path of renewal. And this renewal implies reaching out to the poor, reaching out to the migrants, to the orphans and the widows, as the Old Testament says. Okay, dear friends, let me stop the share. Are you all with me, or was it too boring? I want you to really understand the key vision of this document. It is a joyful experience of encountering truth. The joy of truth. Veritatis Gaudium. So in this context, we have only summarized the highlights. I want you to spend some time. First of all, read the highlights. Secondly, just go through the PowerPoint that we had last time. Thirdly, the whole document is given to you. If you cannot read the whole thing, at least browse through, read the introduction, the conclusion, and browse through. And in the light of all that we have you have heard in the last 2 days, I would like you to write another essay. It's not in a scientific paper, another small essay. Focus on any one thought that you like, from this apostolic exhortation. Elaborate that, give some flesh and blood. That would mean, as you already know, a bit of introduction, but introduction you write at the very end. 1 subsection, 2 subsection, 3 subsection. Say something that you really want to share with the rest of the class. What is one point that has struck you in this Veritatis Gaudium? Don't give a summary of the whole thing, because making a summary is useless. It will take up too much of your space. Take any one point that has struck you in Veritatis Gaudium, or you can also refer to that 2011 document on reforming philosophy. Take any one topic that which touched you, focus on that, and write a 1,000-word essay. That means, you don't really need to do some too many extra readings. Focus only on this. A 1,000-word essay, I would really appreciate if you can just refer to maybe 3 or 4 other books. If you have any books, yes. Otherwise, you go to internet. Some of the books you can download from this Libgen. Now that Libgen, all of you know this one, the libgen.io, I think. From that site, if you go, you can download the books, and that is actually some of these books which you like, you can. So all that I want is basically know this particular topic that you are interested in, then get some books which you can actually use, some references. You don't need to read those all these books fully, no, that you don't need to, but at least get something out of that and make a kind of an essay. It is not a research, but something for you to master. I want you to know the basic insights of this Veritatis Gaudium. You should be able to talk to the high school or college boys for 1 hour on Veritatis Gaudium. That is what I want you at the end of this section. So for that, take up any one insight that you gained. I don't want to give you examples. For example, one I am still giving. One, networking. You can say, what is the significance of networking in today's philosophy and theology classes? So you speak about the role of philosophy, how philosophy has been taught in JDB and in other ecclesiastical faculties. What are some of the shortcomings, and why do we need networking, interdisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity? What would be the advantages and what would be the challenges that you will face in networking? Not only Vatican, also the government of India is now insisting on networking. So that is one example. And then say something personally. How do you find networking as an opportunity to live your life? Okay, you have I'm just sharing once again the classroom. In the classroom, Faith and Reason, there are 75 students, and I am happy that most of you have done the first assignment. That was just a short reflection that most of you have done. See, like this was the first week. The second week, we have completed the second week, Veritatis Gaudium, and the second assignment. Let me click on that second assignment. It is assigned to all of you, and please write 1,000 words on any one topic you find meaningful in. Sorry, it is not Evangelii Gaudium, Veritatis Gaudium. use a few bibliographical references if possible. Now, when I go to edit it, you will get 35 points, and I have given you the time till 6th of September. So you have about a week to prepare for it. I purposely give it on Sunday. Sunday, the idea is that you have 1 week, choose a topic, reflect on it a little bit, write something which you find meaningful and touching. So by all means, I would be happy if you can complete the whole thing by 6, because this course will go on till 15th, I think. And meanwhile, we will be taking up the next section also. I am confusing with the Evangelii and Veritatis. Okay. Just once again, what you are writing now would also be part of your final exam. I will have just 5 minutes of final exam and sharing. That would be part of it. Therefore, please do this. As I said, try to submit it online. It makes it much easier for me if you submit it online. For example, in this class drive folder, when I check, I have actually all your that first assignment as it is. First assignment, Evangelii Gaudium, science religion thing. Second one, third one, all of them I can see. This is actually what I have given it to you. Now, when I get back and go to your marks, see, okay, let me take. Don't worry if it's missing, no problem. See, Dhara, the first personal assignment is missing. Eldo, out of 5, all that I need to do is click here, then view the submission. Then actually it comes just automatically for me. So I can just view the submission. That is the document. And this was the question that I have given. Actually, you could have written it down below, but you have written it on a different file. Okay, so this is actually what he has written, and I can give the marks. Normally, for this assignment, I'll give to everyone 5 out of 5. I can give any comments if you want, and then I can return it. And once I return it, then you would come to know the marks. So the first one, all of you will get 5 out of 5 just because you have attempted. Second one, I will be taking it a little more seriously. Okay. So that is the advantage for me if you really, turn it in or hand it in, because see, it is much easier for me. But if you really cannot do it, don't worry. If you have a problem with the smartphone or something, no problem. I will adjust it. I'll give the marks. See, for example, for Eldo alone, you have the 5 marks which I can see. For all others, I have not really seen. There are a few people who have not been able to submit it. Those missing people, you don't worry about it. If you really cannot, then we will make some other arrangements. So, how is life?
Good, Father.